everybody, and welcome back to Movie Files. Here on this channel, we love talking movies and TV. We love reacting to new trailers. We do unboxing videos, and we also do giveaways to show you our appreciation for your support, and so much more on this channel. So definitely, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all of those videos. So I am here today to share with you all my spoiler-free review for the new Netflix film, Triple Frontier. Now, before I get into the bad and the good and give you guys my score at the end of this video, I want you guys to start the commenting now. I wanted to know if you were excited for this film, and if you've seen the movie, let me know what you thought of it. So comment below. And with that being out of the way, let's talk about Triple Frontier. Loyalties are tested when 5 former Special Forces operatives reunite to steal a drug lord's fortune, unleashing a chain of unintended circumstances. Alright, so starting this review off with the positives, I gotta start with this amazing cast. I mean, you got Ben Affleck, you got Oscar Isaac, Pedro Pascal, Charlie Hunnam, and you have Garrett Hedlund. I mean, the cast is just great. I mean, you got an ex-Batman, you got someone in the Star Wars universe, Oscar Isaac is Poe, someone that's gonna be in Star Wars with Pedro, and also in Game of Thrones. So I was already on board once I saw this cast, and that's where this review is gonna start, which is the cast is great. The chemistry amongst the cast is phenomenal. There's really no weak link amongst the cast. I mean, they are, I watched some of the interviews, kind of the making of the movie, like the press junkets, the interviewing before the movie came out. And you could just see, outside of Ben Affleck, talking about him maybe directing a DC movie in the future. We'll talk about that in another video, potentially. But I really got the sense that the cast, amongst everyone in the cast, really got along with each other. They had to, they did their own stunts. They had to learn how to shoot the guns and all that. And you could tell that rapport they got on set bled into the film. And really, there's no weak link in the entire cast. There are 2 leads in this movie, and they had a little bit more meat of their story. They had a little more background, and that's Ben Affleck and also Oscar Isaac. At this point in time, Ben Affleck, he's a little bit of an older actor. He's not old by any means, but he's older than when he used to be, and he's kind of playing that in his acting career. Obviously, we see that with Batman, an older Batman. In this film, he's a veteran who wants to get back to his glory days, and he really portrays that well in this film. We see him, his family dynamic. We see him in this movie as a special force operative, and he is a badass in this movie, and I really enjoyed Ben Affleck's performance. He always gives a really good performance. But also Oscar Isaac. If you guys don't know, I'm a huge Oscar Isaac fan. I think he needs to lead every movie. He is just great. He might not be, all his movies might not be the greatest, but I think he always gives it 110%. And in this film, he does nothing short of that. He is so great in this movie. I mean, based on the trailer, you would have thought it was more of a Ben Affleck movie, but no, it is Oscar Isaac's film. The movie starts with him, it ends with him, and he has the most character arc, and I really enjoy his performance. But also, like I said, I don't want to leave without saying the cast is great as a whole. It's a great ensemble cast. So some other positives here. This film is definitely an action film. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but the film does a really good job of establishing, though it's not necessarily world building, but we know where these characters are, and we kind of get an idea of what's at stake, which makes when the action does happen much more intense, because we know that they have families to go to at the end of the day. So I really enjoyed that the film took its first act. So yes, we get an action set piece like within the first 10 minutes, but outside of that, the rest of the first half hour, we know who these characters are. We know what they're about. We know what their day-to-day lives are. And I really appreciate when an action film does that, because it makes those big moments in the action set pieces matter so much more, because we know what's at stake for them. So I really appreciate those moments. When it does come to the actual action, it's handled beautifully. This film definitely reminds me of like Sicario when it comes to the action with the drug lord and all that stuff. And then it also reminds me a little bit of ocean movies, because there's a heist element to this film. And I thought that the director did a good job of balancing those tones. But again, going back to the action, it was shot well, it was handled really well. And also the cinematography of this film. There's a moment where I thought I was watching a Lord of the Rings movie, not to the extent of the, what's going on in that universe, but the way it was handled. There's one particular scene, I'll just say it involves a mountain that really kind of reminded me of the Lord of the Rings franchise. But as a whole, the action and the way the film was shot was handled really well. Kind of touching on some themes. We're not really diving deep into these themes, but I really appreciate the film kind of touching on the greed in the movie. And I had mentioned that Ben Affleck is kind of a worn down veteran at this point, and all of the characters are, but I really appreciate the idea of that the characters, they're looking for they're trying to find their itch. They're trying to scratch that itch. They used to be in the army, but now they're doing, they're talking to veterans. They're real estate agents. They're MMA fighters. They're trying to find something to kind of replace what they used to get in the army or in the special forces. And I really like the idea of, we can all relate to that. We all try to get back to our glory days per se, but I really enjoyed those themes. But one of the things that the film did a really good job was they have a moral compass. These characters in the movie, yes, it's an action movie and there's a lot of shoot 'em up going around, but there are circumstances to the things that they do. And I really appreciate the film takes a moment and lets the characters kind of sit down with their actions. And I really appreciate the movie doing that. Again, without spoiling anything, I'll just say this. I'm glad I was at home watching this movie because there are some really high anxiety moments for me in this film. I won't say where or what happens, but I'll just say the house, the plane, and the field really had my anxiety on 10, and I'm really glad I was at home watching it because I don't know what I would have done in the theater, but those are some really enjoyable moments for me. Alrighty, so jumping into the negatives, there weren't a lot, but there were some things that stood out to me. One being that, this is an action film, and it definitely kind of plays to that at times where you kind of get those cliche moments, you kind of get the predictable moments, you get the speech per se. We see this in the trailer where Ben Affleck tells the guys, you're either in or you're out. The injuries you sustain on this mission will stay with you. You won't be the same after this. And, we kind of get those moments throughout the film, which isn't terrible, but it was very predictable at times as far as a negative. There were some story issues and some character decisions that really didn't sit too well with me. And this really isn't a negative, but I personally would have liked to seen the cast and the group do a mission prior to what they're doing in this movie, just because I just like the seeing their strengths and their weaknesses played out a little bit better. And they do a good job of establishing the characters, but for me personally, I would have liked to see a mission prior to what we get in this film. And then last but not least, probably the biggest thing, and I won't get into detail, but there are some moments in the second and third act, I'll just say they didn't sit well with me. But overall, all in all, wrapping up this review, for a film that almost took 9-10 years to make, and it had like 3 or 4 different directors, many different writers. I mean, the ensemble at one point, it was like Will Smith, Tom Hardy, Tom Hanks, Johnny Depp, Mark Wahlberg. So at the end of the day, I think the film did a good job of casting the people that they did have in this movie. The director did a good job. And all in all, I had a good time with this film. Not to open up a can of worms, but a couple weeks ago, one of my favorite directors of all time, Steven Spielberg, said the Netflix film, the TV film, this is more than that. At this point in time, Netflix is changing the game. Like Roma being nominated for a Best Picture. This isn't that. I'm not saying this is the best picture of the year, but this film, I don't know if it would have found its audience if it was at the theaters, and I'm glad that it found its audience on Netflix. I recommend you guys checking this out. I'm giving this film a solid 3.9 out of 5. At the end of the day, it's not a 4 or a perfect movie for me because, again, I think that it does a good job of being a heist action film with a drama, but some of the things in the second, third act really didn't sit well with me. But at the end of the day, a 3.9 out of 5. I highly recommend it. Check it out on Netflix when you guys get the chance. And when you do, make sure you comment, come back to this channel. Let me know what you guys thought of this film. As always, I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you're not already, follow us on all of our other social media accounts, especially on Netflix. We'll go live every single Thursday, so I hope to see you guys there. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.